I bet you I could throw a football over them mountains, boys. I love it, Billy Bob. Nice work, my man.
See it.
Welcome into another live edition of XFL Chalk Talk. Thanks to everybody who's joining us. People are coming in. Ooh, up to 57 now. Thanks for joining us on YouTube Live. We are XFL Chalk Talk. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and, of course, YouTube at XFL Chalk Talk. Subscribe and hit that notification bell, everybody, so you know when our latest content comes out. And make sure you visit xflchalktalk.com. We would greatly appreciate it. All of our content is there as well. Mm-hmm. We've had a busy night of recording so far. We just did our power rankings for week 3. We were all pretty consistent on it, so a little change of pace.
Surprisingly,
we all mostly agreed.
Yeah, Gless copied literally every single one of my teams because I was the first one to fill it out. He literally just copy and pasted it. So I guess after going 4-0 week 2 in my picks, Gless was like, I need to jump on this bandwagon here.
I'm sure that's what it was. I'm sure that's exactly what it was.
But
Kenny is back, Riley.
Yeah, Kenny's back. I know Kenny's crew is happy. Someone on Kenny's crew was roasting me on our last video, and it was really – and he was like, can you say one nice thing about the Dallas Renegades? I'm like, what are you talking about, man? Like, I thought I was pretty complimentary of Dallas in our last video just because I said Landry Jones threw a couple bad picks and was rusty. Whatever. Kenny's crew just annoys the crap out of me.
They're the best fan. What are you talking about? They're the best fans in the world. On a serious note, though, I do want to take a second and say thanks to everybody on Discord, on the YouTube chats, on social media who reached out with their condolences and their thoughts and prayers and everything. I do appreciate it. It means a lot. So I do thank you for that.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome to see. So thanks, XFL community and XFL Chalk Talk fans. You guys are the best. And we really appreciate you following us along on this journey as our channel continues to grow. We're almost at 8,000 subscribers, which is pretty unbelievable. I'm not sure we thought we'd be growing this quickly, but hey, I'll take it.
Yeah.
But
I'll take anything we can get, boys.
Right.
We spend a lot of nights shooting content for you guys to watch us on. A lot of arguments behind the scenes about our picks and our takes and what we like about the league and all of that. So it's good to see some fruits to our labor, I guess.
I mean, that really is why we started this show, is because of our fights we would have about sports.
That's right.
We were at Wintergreen Resort. What was it? Probably over a year ago now, and we were all sitting there fighting about college football and the Rose Bowl and getting into TV ratings.
Guys, we were arguing till like 2 a.m. Do you remember that?
Yes,
it got heated. Like it almost came to blows. I mean, it was.
Gless and I were on the same page, and it was versus you and Brandon, Riley. It was you and Pastel.
People need to know that Kenny and Pastel are good for one fist fight probably every 10 meetups in person that we have, especially when drinking's involved. They're good for one fist fight late at night.
Right.
So they just love agitating each other. They're so
we know how to press each other's buttons.
Yeah, so we wanted to jump on tonight and talk about the quarterback play because that's been in the news, especially in major media outlets. And it's so funny, guys, because you could tell like people are like taking their sides of the argument and digging their trenches, and whatever bias opinion that they have, they're pushing that agenda. Like you can see ESPN, Fox, who obviously have an invested interest in the XFL, are taking one side, and then another broadcast network taking the other side, NBC. And I know, Kenny, that you and I have been talking about this, but Pro Football Talk and Mike Florio is really kind of what made us want to do a segment on this, because I know that they were tweeting out some stuff, and I want you to read that tweet in a minute, but I was watching a segment on YouTube which had like a 14% like rate, so you know how well that was received. But just the most ignorant, uneducated opinions on the XFL quarterback play in this young season. Kenny, why don't you go ahead and read that tweet, and we'll kind of get this segment kicked off where we talk about just the media coverage of the XFL and specifically quarterbacks, and then we'll give our take on how we think the quarterbacks are playing so far this season.
Yeah, it's super annoying. It was super frustrating to read what Pro Football Talk has been saying. But the tweet that it kind of got me fired up the other day was, if the XFL isn't going to find / pay for better quarterbacks, at some point it will need to use 11 offensive players and 10 defensive players. To which I then responded back, was what the clown show being run by Florio and NBC. Nothing but hit pieces coming out. Their solution is to go sign CFL standout Johnny Manziel with a sarcastic laugh, and Colin Kaepernick. Like, a startup league has the kind of cash that he's requesting to pay for a quarterback for, because he was requesting upwards of $20 million. It's just really sloppy, biased journalism from a company that has a vested interest in seeing the league fail, because their competitors in ABC and Fox have the rights to their games. Like, it's super annoying to see that, and it really hurts the credibility of the league, because unfortunately a lot of people follow Pro Football Talk.
Yeah, a little salty, aren't they, about maybe the 2001 version of the XFL not working out?
A little bit, yeah.
And the fact that this league has their ducks in a row and actually is looking like a legitimate football league, that's got to be a hard pill to swallow for old NBC over there. But go ahead, Gless.
Yeah, just to kind of go off, Kenny and Riley, your point. Everybody's kind of digging in and giving their own opinion on all this stuff, and I guess that's the way we are in following sports these days. Everybody has a hot take. Everybody's got to be able to get clicks. Everybody's got to be able to get more eyeballs. So I hope that NBC is a lot more open-minded, but I feel like it was just slanted and biased journalism. And Mike Florio came out week 1 and talked about how bad the play was. So this wasn't just a week 2 thing. I mean, he one that I listened to and talked about how much he didn't like the play, thought it was sloppy, thought it was a bad product. When those who watched those games, I mean, it's week 1. I mean, in the NFL, it's really sloppy in week 1. It's really sloppy until like week 4. So I don't understand people's expectations of, the football better be like NFL quality. Well, these aren't NFL players. There's a reason they're not in the NFL. Can't we all just enjoy football? Right. Like this.
Enjoy the fact that there's a league that's giving how many jobs, like thousands of jobs, to not only football players but coaches and broadcast teams and front office personnel, equipment staff. I mean, communication. It literally goes on and on how many jobs this league is supplying, and it's like, I just don't know why you would poo-poo that. It makes no sense to me.
Well, and not only that, if you're a football fan, why are you upset that there's football in February, like late February, early like March and April? Why, if you're a football fan, what's better than having football go further into the season? Like, I don't understand that. And I get you don't want to see completely sloppy play. Nobody wants to see that, and I'm not arguing with that on that side of things. But if it's warranted criticism, then it needs to be warranted. If it's unwarranted, that's wrong. And why, I don't understand why you would bash it just to bash it. And you know how you can tell when it's unwarranted criticism? When you start seeing lazy tweets like the one Sports Illustrated came out with the other day, where they were where they were talking about the drastic drop in TV ratings, in which everybody who's ever followed a startup league knew that there was going to be a slight drop in ratings. They still pulled a 2.3 on aggregate across the board on Saturday and Sunday, minus the FS1 game, which is a premium channel. So, which still drew a 1.3.
Which was a shame, because it was probably the best game of the weekend.
But that's just lazy journalism like that. It's super frustrating. It's super annoying, and it just doesn't make sense.
You know what's funny to me, guys, is especially for this crew, for us, because I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, Glutz is a Washington Redskins fan, Pastel is a Bengals fan, and Kenny, you're a Jags fan.
Yeah,
we know what sloppy football looks like. It's in the NFL too, and like you're talking about quarterback play in the XFL. Like, look at the NFL. Half the teams are searching for a quarterback. I mean, it's not that easy to find a quarterback. I mean, that's probably it's so funny to me. And I'm not really meaning to take shots here, but like Chris Sims on Pro Football Talk is talking about one, that he hasn't watched a down, but he's going to sit there and judge and say they need stars, they need quarterbacks. I'm like, the NFL kind of does too. I mean, didn't Chris Sims start for a couple of years for the Bucs?
Yeah.
I wouldn't actually exactly call Chris Sims a star quarterback.
Here's the thing. If people are going to complain about the league not having stars, give me names. Right? Go ahead and give me names, because Aside from, and they can't give you one, and they give you the same two over and over.
Three.
They give you Johnny Manziel, who's way over the hill. His skill set's not there anymore.
Gone.
He couldn't even play in the CFL, so why the heck would the XFL sign him?
Or the
He couldn't even play in
AAF.
those leagues.
Brandon Silver started over him when he came to the Memphis Express. All the hype
Needs
that he
stars?
brought with
That's
him,
lazy,
and he couldn't even get on the field because Brandon Silvers was starting, who's one of the lower tier quarterbacks in the XFL.
Yep.
Yeah. They can't give you names. And that's what drives me nuts about the criticism of, oh, they need better quarterback play. Well, can you show me? Can you give me names, right?
Yep.
They did an exhaustive, and I mean exhaustive search to find the best 8 quarterbacks to play in this league. And for the most part, for 5 of the 8 teams, I think they did a pretty damn good job. I really do. And the stats bear it out. I mean, if you look at the completion percentages of Cardell Jones, you look at the completion percentages for Landry Jones, you look at Jordan Teamu, PJ Walker, and then Josh Johnson, you're looking at completion percentages of around 60, 65. And in the case of Jordan Teamu, he's had completion percentages of 70 and 80%. Like, those are very comparable to what you see in the NFL. So what is everybody complaining that the quarterback play has been awful? To me, that doesn't make sense. And the stats don't bear that out either.
It's people looking for a negative slant. They're looking for anything they can do to rip the league up. And it's super it's petty and it's annoying. And Glutz, you're right. I hear the same 4 names every time they talk about quarterbacks. Like you said, Manziel, Tebow, Kaepernick, and Trevor Lawrence. And none of those guys are going to, newsflash, none of those guys are going to play for the XFL. Tebow's a professional baseball player now. Kaepernick wants $20 million. Manziel's washed up and finished. And Trevor Lawrence isn't going to leave Clemson to go play in the XFL. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, you know what's like, what we should be focusing on is the quality of quarterbacks that they have brought in. The young talent in this league, the 3 top quarterbacks in this league right now, all under 30 years old. They didn't bring in retreads. They didn't bring in Brock Osweiler, guys like that we've seen maybe in the NFL, but just aren't, quality quarterbacks. They bring in guys that have all this upside. Jordan Ta'amu. I mean, he's been unbelievable so far, and he's a rookie quarterback. He just hasn't had a lot of game reps. He only started for a year and a half at Ole Miss. So, he's kind of under the radar in terms of quarterback play. He's a little raw. He needs a little bit of work. But the XFL is a perfect league for a guy like him to really come in with a ton of upside, to work with professional quality coaches, to have high quality skill set players around him. And he is shining. Him and PJ Walker are shining stars right now. PJ Walker should be on an NFL active roster right now. I mean, that guy's playing out of his mind.
It's fantastic. You've got 3 quarterbacks who as of right now, if they continue the trajectory they're on, the trajectory that they're heading on for this season, they're going to be on NFL rosters next year. PJ Walker, Jordan Ta'amu, Cardell Jones, if they continue to play the way they've been playing, they will be on NFL rosters, whether that's a camp invite, as a backup, practice squad, whatever it might be. I guarantee you if these 3 guys keep playing the way they're playing, they will end up on NFL rosters next year.
Yeah, and the other thing too, guys, and we just spoke about the completion percentages and those 3 guys tearing it up. Let's talk about the other 5 guys for a second.
Yeah,
the fact that, look, it's all about game reps, right? It's getting in and getting comfortable. For anybody to sit there and watch the league and expect quarterbacks to go out there and, aside from Jordan Ta'amu and PJ Walker, who've had really good completion percentages, to go out there and throw up numbers like Aaron Rodgers and numbers like Tom Brady and numbers like that, it's just not realistic. So to be able to judge a league based on that, I think it's just, your expectations are wrong. So why don't you just enjoy what we have in front of us? We just got a great comment in YouTube, by the way, said, hey, why can't people just like the league for what it is? We have football in February, where usually in February, guys, there's figure skating. Like you see figure skating on Sundays, right? We don't have to deal with that anymore. We have football now.
Yeah, and let's look at it this way, guys. So we talked about those 3 guys. So that's 3 out of the 8. But then there's 2 quarterbacks who just started their first game in Josh Johnson and Landry Jones. They're two of the more well-known quarterbacks in this league, 2 of the quarterbacks that we had very high hopes for going in this year. Landry Jones hasn't played a snap in training camp. He got hurt like the first practice in training camp. Josh Johnson hadn't practiced for weeks before playing in the game last weekend. So they're just coming off, injuries. They have a little bit of rust on them. But you saw, especially at the end of the game, they were going back and forth, touchdown passes. They were really starting to capitalize on those long drives that each team had been having all day. So once they get their feet under them, that's 5 of the 8 teams that have solid quarterback play. Is that not a very similar percentage as what the NFL has right now?
I'd argue it's pretty close. If you extrapolate that to 32 teams, it's probably pretty similar. And like Glenn said, it comes with repetitions. It's a new league. It's guys who are getting
new players,
in their
playbooks.
system. Yeah, exactly. They're all getting so it's all game reps. I mean, if you look at the second half of the Sunday games last week, they were absolutely the entire St. Louis and Houston game was phenomenal. But if you look at the second half of the Dallas and LA game, the second half was great. Both quarterbacks got in a rhythm. And if you look at the end of the day, their stat lines were pretty impressive. Josh Johnson had 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. The 53 completion percentage a little low, but I expect that to rise as he gets more familiar with guys like Spruce and Hood and the other stars on that offense. Then Landry Jones threw for 305 yards, 1 touchdown, 70% completion percentage. Yeah, he threw 2
that
picks.
run.
Yeah, that's.
I had to throw that in there.
I know.
He's about as graceful as a battleship, man.
He's a gazelle.
But these guys, once they got into rhythm, the play picked up, and I think you're going to see that as the season progresses. We're going to see the quarterback play get better and better and better, and it's not even going to be an issue 2 or 3 weeks from now. I don't even think it's going to be an issue this week, to be honest.
Well, we talk about that it's a new league, but it's also you have to look within that. So the draft was in October, and most of those rosters aren't even the same. And then you have a 2-week minicamp. You break for the holidays. You come back. You have a 3-week training camp, and then you start the season. So what do they have? Like a month and a week or 2 to get their act together and get to know a whole brand new team. It's not like you're bringing in 7 to 10 new rookies. You're bringing in literally an entire new team to learn a playbook, to grow chemistry. I mean, we've talked about this over and over again. Like, what do you expect from a team? Like, of course it's going to be sloppy. You have NFL teams where you have the core of your team has been together for, 5-6 years, and they're sloppy for the first couple of weeks. Why would you expect no less with a team that literally was just put together a few months prior to the start of the season?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just use your head. Use some common sense here.
I know, but it's just the way we are today. I mean, it's satisfaction now, all more the same, right? Everybody's, I'll see what it is. I'll tune in. And I think that people expect the quarterback play to be good right off the bat. And it's just not realistic. I'll tell you what, guys, I want to have this exact conversation right after the championship. And I want to do a quarterback breakdown like after the season's done. And then I want to compare that to NFL quarterbacks as a league as a whole. And I'd like to see the difference in play, because I don't think it's going to be much. I really don't. I think the stars that we have in this league are extremely efficient. They make plays down the field. They make plays with their legs, right? Where in the AAF, we didn't see a lot of that. But here in the XFL, we're seeing a ton of that already, and we're seeing a ton of that potential. I think it's going to be a great topic for us to discuss after this great XFL season finishes up.
I'm really excited for this week, because this week is kind of the week I've been talking to people at work about. And actually, one of the things that was really cool, someone at work today came up to me and they were like, man, PJ Walker and that sidearm throw, how unbelievable was that?
He's the truth.
And so, I mean, it was really cool to hear that, and it kind of validated what we've been saying, that the quarterback play can hold up, and people are going to notice the quarterback play. But I'm really excited for this week, because this is the week I've kind of been walking around the office telling people who've been like, because a couple people did come up and say, man, I watched the Seattle-Tampa game. That was kind of to watch. And I watched the DC game, and Matt McGloin looked awful. And I was like, yeah, unfortunately, Saturday, 3 of the bottom tier quarterbacks right now, happen to play on the same day. So that kind of hurt a little bit, but I said, pay attention to this week. This is the week that's going to be really pivotal, because this is the week where, you've got guys who are all the starters are coming off of reps. Everybody who's starting this week, it will have started last week, and they haven't had that yet. They didn't have that. They didn't have that last week with Josh Johnson, Taylor or Cornelius, and Landry Jones starting. Now everybody who started last week will come back this week. They'll have a full week of practice. They'll have full reps. They'll have full games underneath of them. And I'm excited to see the quarterback play based off of that.
Kenny, I hope you were passing out those Chalk Talk business cards to everybody because you forgot them at the game last week.
I know.
It's like, what do we print 250 of them for if you're not going to hand them out?
I know. And that guy gave me his card, and he looked at me, and he was like, do you have your card? And I was like,
just
like,
making it rain Chalk Talk business cards around the office.
Yeah, it is what it is. I have them in my wallet now, and I have a card holder in my pocket, so it's not an issue anymore.
I tell you what, Kenny was networking at the Defenders game though.
That was cool.
Hey, whoever mentioned Christian Hackenberg in the YouTube chat, never do that again, or I'm blocking you. For the love of God, that quarterback. If I see another Christian Hackenberg
or Zach Mettenberger, by the way, he's playing in the spring league coming up. I saw him on Instagram. He said the only thing that can bring me out of retirement, the spring league, and I was like, there's not much else to do other than play the spring league. Dude.
That's pretty much all you got.
But that's what's crazy too. Speaking of options are limited, like I just love for basketball, you could literally go to any country around the world and they all have professional teams. Obviously, the quality is not the same as the NBA, but people love it because they love basketball. And there's good players that are playing in those leagues. Maybe just a tier below, or for whatever reason, they're not in the NBA. But there are leagues all over the place. Soccer. I mean, God, how many soccer leagues are there? The MLS is a very similar league to the XFL. People like MLS. Baseball, you have the minor league system. I mean, you have thousands of players that have the opportunity. Why can't we do the same in football? Like, why do we have to try to crap all over it and say...
It's so weird.
Like, I'm not going to watch second-tier players. Like, okay, so Landry Jones, if we take into account... I mean, what do you have? I mean, in terms of real legit leagues, obviously the NFL, the CFL, the Arena League just folded. So if you take Landry Jones, you're telling me right now, or PJ Walker, one of these upper-tier XFL quarterbacks, you're telling me they're not a top 100 quarterback in the world.
For sure are. They for sure are.
They're a top 100 in the world at what they do. I mean, Gless, are you a top 100 marketer in the world? Am I a top 100 digital media specialist? Hell no. So,
speak for
people
yourself,
watching,
by the way.
are you top 100 in the world in what
you
you do? But we call these XFL players scrubs that can't make it. Like, it's just such an ignorant, uneducated take, and it drives me crazy. I know that's a little bit of a rant, but it just reminded me. But you bring up, I brought up Hackenberg, and you brought up Mettenberger. So, like, the quality of quarterback play right now in the XFL is, like, I think what's really separating them from the AAF. And I think the rules innovations are better. But the top half of the quarterbacks in the XFL are just so much higher quality than what we saw in the AAF. And how many guys on the AAF are now on NFL squads, like active rosters? I mean, Garrett Gilbert is on the Browns. He's their backup quarterback. Logan Woodside. I mean, there's like John Wolford. So we have 3 guys right there from the AAF that are on NFL rosters right now. So you're telling me after this year, I could definitely see 3, 4, maybe even 5 guys that are going to get looks for the NFL if things continue this way. So I don't know how you can sit here and tell me that the league is struggling at the quarterback position. Now, we're like not affiliated. People often get this confused. Like they think we're like affiliated with the league. Like we're not. Our show is owned by the league. We're in partnership with the league. We're not. I mean, obviously we support the league. I mean, we're a show that covers the XFL, but we're not affiliated with the XFL in any way. So we can give our honest opinions here. And there have been a few teams that the quarterback position is an absolute mess. And I think we've been pretty accurate pointing them out going into the season, how concerned we were. Like I have beaten the drum over and over about how concerned I was about the Tampa Bay quarterback position. So it's not like we're sitting here and everything is all roses and daisies and sunshine in the XFL quarterback world. But what ticks me off is when people that don't even watch a game, Chris Sims, come out and say that they need more stars, they need better quarterbacks. Well, dude, you haven't even watched the play. Stop looking at the stupid box score. There's so much beyond the box score.
I was just going to say it. Yeah, I was just going to say it. I was going to say, they should really go beyond the box score, Riley.
And then people look at our rankings from the preseason and then they give us crap. I hate that video, by the way. Because we have
It gets
PJ
so
Walker
many views,
at 7.
though.
But
So
it was
many-
because,
so
guys,
many
it's
views.
because
For
it
the
has so many
record,
views.
I had PJ Walker at like 4 on my preseason list.
It's because
just
he was
for
in
the
a
record.
quarterback competition with Connor Cook, and they drafted him.
I
in the first
believe
round.
Riley and Glester tanked his rating.
Oh yeah,
I know
but what,
Brandon and Pastel and I had him higher.
all right, Kenny. So what'd
I
you
don't
say
even
about
remember.
Cardell Jones, by the way?
I said he was great. Don't put words in my mouth. bro.
Yep.
I believe the quote was, I had my top 7, then every other quarterback in the league, then Cardell Jones, who is probably right now a top 2 or 3 MVP candidate. So stop talking about how we tanked PJ Walker's rating, Kenny.
He's the 3rd best quarterback in the league right now. I'd agree with that.
Not too bad.
That's right, guys. Just kind of staying on the quarterback topic, and one of the things that I'm a little bit hesitant about, and we've gotten some comments about benching quarterbacks and they need to switch it up. I would be very careful with that.
That's concerning.
And it's concerning, and there's a couple reasons for that. One is going to be just think of the natural drop off. Think about the NFL. Right, the NFL. How many really good backups are there in the NFL? Not many. There's not many. I mean, generally when a backup goes in, everybody gets extremely worried, right? And there's not a lot of those guys that can consistently win you games. That's one. Point number 2, and I talked about this on an earlier show, there's only so many first-team reps that you get in practice throughout a week, right? There's only so many first-team reps that you get in training camp. These guys that are the starters, aside from PJ Walker may had the least out of all first-team reps because he was in a quarterback competition.
Him and Tamu, 2 guys in quarterback competition.
Him and Tamu, right? But those guys.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so these guys need all the reps they can get. So if you go and you bench a Brandon Silvers, you go bench a Matt McGloin. Yeah, I know McGloin really struggled last week, and he got benched at the end of the game, but I don't think he's going to get benched if he's playing mediocre at all. I think he is their guy.
I think the Guardians are riding or dying with McGloin.
Yeah, I think so. And Seattle's riding with Silvers. Tampa's the only one where even with a healthy Aaron Murray still is going to be the starter, especially with what we saw last week. So I want fans out there to just kind of hold the horses a little bit on I don't think you're going to see a better product. I think you're going to see a worse product. You start benching these guys that have gotten the bulk of the first team reps.
Gless, playing off that point is the one thing that really concerns me, and I think you saw this in Tampa Bay, is once the starter goes down, the depth at the position is very concerning. So they have to find ways to keep these quarterbacks upright, because as bad as Aaron Murray played week 1 versus New York, at least the Tampa Bay Vipers were moving the ball. I mean, they had the most total yards of any team in the league week 1. They just couldn't score. But then last week, what an absolute disaster that offense was. Turnovers galore, couldn't find the end zone. It was rough, and I think that's going to be the case for most teams. I mean, I think few teams, if their starter went down, would be comfortable going with the backup quarterback. So I think depth is a concern. So if you start talking about not only just injuries coming into play, but benching guys in certain teams, I would hesitate there. I would ride some of these guys out for a while before you look to your bench. Not saying you don't do it when it's like you absolutely need a spark or something like that, but in terms of consistency and building chemistry with your team and just the lack of depth in the league overall, I don't know if for most of these teams if that's a good strategy.
Yeah, well, that's why I was saying if Cornelius gets another week of reps, in practice, and he could elevate his play a little bit.
I don't know about that, man.
I'm not holding my breath, but I'm just saying I would like to see him with another week under his belt, because Aaron Murray, as of now, still hasn't practiced all week. So I'd like to see him with another round of reps. The only issue is now Nick Truesdale isn't practicing, so you're taking away one of their best offensive weapons.
They're in trouble.
That team's banged up too. I looked at the report. There were a lot of guys on offense and defense who didn't practice today.
Yeah, one thing also, when you look at the schedule this week, both 0-2 teams are at home, but they're both welcoming the 2-0 teams. So DC is heading to LA, Houston is heading to Tampa. So it's not getting any easier for these teams, especially with, like you mentioned, Kenny, that situation in Tampa. I mean, Cornelius just looked – he just looked like he wasn't ready. I mean, he's a rookie quarterback as well out of Oklahoma State. He's just not ready. And Quentin Flowers. I mean, guys, I love Quentin Flowers as an X factor, as a guy that, in terms of a football player, you need to get him the ball as much as possible in creative ways. But I'm not sure he's the guy you want dropping back 20, 25 times throwing the football during a game.
I need a little redemption after you're slamming my quarterback stuff. Who had the best X factor so far this year? I think it was me, right, with Nelson Spruce.
Dude, your X factor was Kyle Hicks, who's not even in the league anymore.
Oh, and Nelson Spruce as well. Nelson Spruce is the best receiver in the league. I called that.
All right,
I'll
give you that.
Just for the record. At one point, neither of yours were in the league.
For a while, I was both my LA guys weren't on the team. Rashad Ross and Sean Oakman. I was like, don't go watch that video.
I don't think mine have been very good either. Now that I think about it, I had Christine. No. Will Sutton was the good one. I did have Christine Michaels, the other one. Now, he did have a lot of carries last week. I was a little worried in week 1. I was like, man, I don't think he's going to play a lot
of carries, not a lot of production. But yeah, that is interesting, Gless. I know we're talking about quarterbacks here, but that fact that Matt Jones had just the bulk of the carries week 1, he had like 21, 24, something like that, compared to Christine Michaels' 7. And then they were pretty evenly split last week. So these teams are they're still feeling out who to ride in terms of their run, especially at running back. There's been no consistency at running back so far. And that's my worry at quarterback. So you look at Tampa Bay, and someone mentioned it in the chat, they have to stop switching back and forth between these guys, because not only are you struggling because you got a guy who's lacked the reps and just lacked game time, but if you're swapping them in and out, you're just not – there's no identity right now with the Vipers. And that's their biggest problem.
Can't get – but those guys can't get in a rhythm either.
Exactly.
Right? If you're switching series and, he may have one bad series and he needs to get back out there, but trust and pulls. I don't know. I agree with you, Riley. I agree with you 100%. They need to stick with a guy and go forward.
And I apologize in advance because I don't remember exactly who the play-by-play was on the Seattle Tampa game, but they brought it up in the middle of the game. Like, Cornelius was driving down the field and he'd made like 4 or 5 decent throws to extend the drive. And then they got down inside the 20 and they yanked him and put Flowers in, who had 2 like negative plays in a row. And then they brought Cornelius in, who ended up throwing an incompletion. And then that was the drive where they dropped the field goal, where the holder dropped the snap. And the guy brought it up. He was like, man, you finally get your quarterback in a rhythm, and then you yank him out just as he's getting going and driving and getting into the red zone, and you stall the drive. And now, look, you've walked away with 0 points again.
It was Joel Klatt.
That's what it was. Yeah,
they did that week 1 too, Kenny. Yep. They did that when Murray was struggling. Quentin Flowers came in, and he was coming in more for RPO purposes, but he was effective running the ball. Like, they actually got into the red zone. I think they got down to the 5, and in comes trotting Aaron Murray again. And I don't remember if it was a turnover or if somehow they didn't score when they were moving the ball with Quentin Flowers. So you just keep swapping these guys in and out. That's not the recipe for success. And I'm not trying to bash on the Vipers too much, but I think it's just and I mentioned this, Gless, when we talked on Tuesday. I almost blame Trestman the GM as much as I blame Trestman the coach, because I mean, we've talked leading up to the season just how concerned we were, not with the roster of Tampa Bay. If you saw our preseason power rankings, we were very high on Tampa Bay, and I still am with the talent that they have. But you're not going to win any games if you don't have a reliable quarterback to get you through. And they got Aaron Murray as their first allocated quarterback, and the rest they picked up in the draft. When you saw allocations going to St. Louis, multiple allocations to St. Louis, to a team that has Jordan Tom, who's an MVP candidate right now. LA, you got Josh Johnson. Seattle, they had Chase Litton go up there. Eric Dungy went to Dallas. I mean, you had allocations everywhere except Tampa, where I felt personally that they needed an allocated quarterback the most. So clearly Trestman was comfortable going into the season with Aaron Murray. But 1, I'm not high on Aaron Murray, and 2, he did not address the depth behind him at all. I mean, when they drafted Quentin Flowers, they drafted him as a running back, for crying out loud.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, they have 4 quarterbacks now. They ended up picking up Chase Litton.
But I think he's injured.
Yeah, it's just it's weird. It's a weird situation. Like I said, we recorded an earlier segment. I don't think the quarterback of the future is on Tampa's roster.
I totally agree with you.
and that's not good for Tampa the rest of the way, especially considering they're starting 0-2. So we'll see. But overall, at the end of the day, I don't want to get too negative and fall into that trap. There's 5 quarterbacks. Silvers is a hair away from turning the corner. He looked a little bit better last week. I'm hoping with the addition of Kaysen Williams, that's going to open up the offense a little more for him. The running backs seem to be doing their part. They have a 3-headed monster down there and a lot of versatility. So I think Silvers can turn the corner. I think he showed in the AAF and at Troy that he can be a capable quarterback. I just think, look, week 1, everybody gets a pass in my book. And week 2, he wasn't playing in the best of conditions. Like that wasn't the greatest.
Everybody struggled. Yeah, everybody struggled on the.
So team. let's see what he does in the third week with another week of reps, another week of continuity with the offense, and a clean weather game, and let's see what he can do, because I think he's proven he can be a good quarterback. He just maybe needs to settle in and get it here. So I feel confident with him. I don't, like I said, however, feel confident in McGloin or whoever starts in Tampa. Those are the two that I'm a little bit concerned about.
I think the talent is there, clearly. I mean, some of the throws that Silvers makes are big boy NFL type of throws. He has the arm talent. It's just the consistency. Someone in the chat just said it. I'm sorry, it's already gone past, so I can't give you a shout out. But they said the problem with Silvers is just he's wildly inconsistent. For every amazing throw that he puts out, like this one you're watching here, not his fault. But there are ones that he makes where it's just he's throwing into double, even sometimes triple coverage, and you got to clean that up. But the talent is there with Silvers. I mean, he showed it in the AAF. It showed a lot of promise. I mentioned earlier they brought in Johnny Manziel, who Mike Florio thinks is the answer to all of the XFL's problems. And Johnny Manziel couldn't get on the field because Brandon Silvers was playing too well to take him out. So it's not like Brandon Silvers can't get the job done. It's just that through the first couple of weeks and really just last game in the second half of the DC game, he couldn't get the job done, because that first half of the first game versus the DC Defenders, he was really kind of building off of what he was doing in the AAF. So he's shown that he's capable, but consistency is the key with this guy.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the things that Jim Zorn will start to do is probably look at Brandon Silvers and what he did at Troy and really run a lot of the stuff that he ran at Troy and was really successful at. I felt there was a lot of stuff that it didn't really look like a lot what he did at Troy and what he had done in the AAF. And week 2 looked a little bit more like the offense that he's used to running. You're seeing Zorn sprinkle in a lot of RPO game, which Silvers ran at Troy. So I think we just need time with him. I'm certainly nowhere near the benching him for BJ Daniels train by any means. But you said it, Riley. He just needs to be more consistent. That's all.
I think, Les, the problem is with Seattle that Tampa, they have the same issue as Tampa. I just don't think there's anyone behind him that's the answer on that roster right now. I don't think BJ Daniels is your full-time answer if Silvers doesn't get you're pretty much riding or dying with Brandon Silvers, much like Aaron Murray, except I'm higher on Silvers than I am Murray. But I think it's a very similar situation at the backup quarterback position.
Speaking of quarterbacks, did you guys see Tommy Armstrong is getting a tryout for Team 9, the old ex-Nebraska quarterback?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah. I saw it yesterday. He's getting a tryout to join Team 9. And for those of you who don't know, he played quarterback in Nebraska for 4 years, a true dual threat quarterback. Had some really decent seasons. I think he played I think he was with Bo Pelini, right? He wasn't with Mike Riley. I think he was with Bo Pelini.
He may have been Bo Pelini. He may have been a year with Mike Riley.
Yeah. He was right in that transition. He might have been right in that transition year where he had it. But yeah, I'm excited to see, if he gets a spot, because that's a guy who can make plays with his arm and his feet. He was very entertaining. He was wildly up and down. He had a career completion percentage of like 55% at Nebraska. So that is a little concerning, but it's a guy. He's a guy who is a true playmaker. Like he's a true dual threat quarterback. So let's see if he can carve out a spot on Team 9, and maybe, who knows, at the end of the year he could be on the team's roster.
They also brought in Armani Edwards, who's now a receiver. But you remember he was quarterback I believe he was at App State, right?
App
State. I believe he was the quarterback that beat Michigan, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So some interesting moves on Team 9 right now. I want to focus on probably the MVP of the league right now, PJ Walker. We talked about him a little bit at the beginning, but I want to talk about what, Gless, you can go ahead and start. What are you seeing from this guy that is so successful, and what maybe people didn't recognize during his time at Temple and even when he was with the Colts for that brief time? What is PJ Walker doing right now that is really kind of separating himself from the rest of the league?
Yeah, I think there's two things. One, I really like his intermediate and deep ball throws. He's extremely accurate. He seems extremely calm in the pocket. But I really like that. He's really taking a lot of shots, and he's taking what the defense is giving him. The other thing that I really like about PJ Walker is a lot kind of what you're seeing with Cardell Jones, with his ability to extend the play with his legs, almost like a Russell Wilson-esque, right? He's able to kind of break, if the pocket breaks down, he's able to kind of find a gap, get outside, and then just kind of set up over the tackle, throw the ball on a dime to his receivers down the field. So that's what I really like. I like his ability to really throw the ball down the field with accuracy. And then the second thing, again, his ability to escape pressure, set up, keep his eyes downfield, and throw a strike. I think that's what I've been really impressed with.
Kenny, Gless stole my comparison. I compared him to Russell Wilson in our last show, and Gless is snatching him just like my power rankings.
That's why I liked it. I was kind of grinning when he said that.
The only hold on, time out. Let's take a step back. When he asked me his comparison, it was the highlight with the sidearm baseball throw.
Yeah, that sidearm touchdown to Cam Phillips.
I was responding, oh, that looks like Pat Mahomes. And then he said, oh, more like Russell Wilson, and he went on his Russell Wilson bit. And then I was like, oh, all right, well, I could see that too. I like Russell Wilson better. So I will give you that one, Riley. I give you that one.
I love what PJ's kind of blown me away with, and Gless, I'm kind of doubling down on what you said, is just it's not even like his scrambling ability. It's just what he does in the pocket to improvise. His footwork is phenomenal. Like the way he's able to dance around getting sacked or taking a big loss. And I was kind of curious because I remember hearing a report saying that an NFL team wanted to sign him so they could replicate Lamar Jackson because they were playing Lamar Jackson the next week. So essentially they were going to
not really that type of player, though. That's not really who he is. He's not Lamar Jackson. Yeah.
I agree.
No, he's not Lamar Jackson at all.
No.
He's Russell Wilson.
I heard them say that, and I was like, I don't remember him running a lot at Temple. Like, I was looking up his rushing stats, and I was like, he didn't run hardly any at Temple. Like, he was not a dual threat guy. But now watching him in the pocket, he's an absolute magician in the pocket. It's phenomenal. And so I get why they kind of wanted that. They needed somebody off the streets who could kind of replicate Lamar because of what he can dance like Lamar does in the pocket. He might not have that high end, I'm going to take off and run at 90 yards type speed, but he can move in the pocket like Lamar does, dance around defenders and make that throw.
I want to play these highlights again because I want to talk about, Gless, you kind of mentioned three things. So the first is ball placement. I've been so impressed with his ball placement on deep balls. Look, he hit Cam Phillips literally right in the hands going down on that down that fade route. Right here, too. And that's what you're talking about, Kenny. On that play right there, he's scrambling. He has the chance to run and probably get a first down, but he keeps his eyes downfield. He keeps his eyes downfield and looks to throw the ball and make a play with his receivers. But he has the ability to get outside the pocket and make plays with his legs, much like Russell Wilson. Just the way that he kind of commands the offense and kind of has that presence on the field, that's what reminds me of Russell Wilson so much. And right there you see again the ball placement to Holly. I mean, that's just that is a starting quarterback NFL type of throw right there. So I think the ball placement, the fact that he keeps his eyes downfield, those are two things that really stand out to me when I see PJ Walker, and just the command of the offense that he has right now has been really impressive. But let's go ahead and talk about Cardell Jones, because Kenny, I know you're dying to talk about how good Cardell Jones is playing.
Here we go.
So, Kenny, why don't you go ahead and tell me, what is Cardell Jones doing right?
Well, he's making the throws he needs to make, and they're setting up. They've done a phenomenal job setting up the offense to his strengths. They've got a lot of speed at receiver. They've got a lot of guys who live, in those 15 to 20 yard routes. and he's just throwing dimes on him. He's doing a really good job. They're protecting him well. I think the biggest thing for me is what he's done is he's been able to extend plays and allow those right there, like what we're seeing right there on that highlight. He's able to extend plays. He's able to use his bigger body to kind of get that first guy off of him, or at least break that first arm tackle, and really get the ball to guys who are doing their damage in those intermediate routes like we just talked about. And surprisingly, he's been nifty on his feet. That was something I didn't see coming because he never really showcased a lot of it, but he's looked good on the move. He's looked good on the run. You could tell they do a lot of moving pocket stuff. And I got to say, it's impressive. Now, he's had some head scratching moments. He's had a couple picks and a couple drop picks that, I think we kind of have we've had a different vantage point because we've been at both games, so I've been able to watch a lot of what he does. So I think there's some part of his game that needs to be cleaned up. He's had some inconsistencies. His completion percentage isn't super great. But as of right now, in my opinion, he is the third best quarterback in the league behind P.J. Walker and Jordan Ta'amu.
Yeah, I mean, he's throwing over 60% right now. So I think that's the threshold you would look at, is that 60% mark for a quarterback.
Yeah,
but yeah, that interception he had, that interception he had last week, he threw it into double coverage. He had a couple of throws, I remember, in the first game that probably should have been picked off. But I think the biggest thing, and Gless, I know that you've been touching on this a lot, is just, and Kenny kind of touched on it too, is what I think has really stood out to me is his ability when the pocket breaks down to get outside of the pocket to break those tackles. And Gless, you use this all the time, Ben Roethlisberger-like, and keep the play alive, because the offensive line play for DC has probably been their weakness so far in establishing the run. And a lot of what Pep Hamilton wants to do is, play off of the run with the play action and hit deep passes. And they're still doing that despite the lack of a running game. And when the pocket breaks down, he's still able to either hang in the pocket, shrug off a defender, or escape the pocket and find ways to make plays. That's what's been so impressive about Cardell.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, anybody who's watched any of either defenders' games, just seen his big play ability, but not only his ability to extend the play, like you just said, Riley, but he's able to find the open guy, right? There is no hesitation. He's getting out there. He sees the guy, and he puts the ball in his explosive receiver's hands so they can go out and make a play. I'm going to go back a little bit to what Kenny said about he's been a little bit inconsistent. I thought he was inconsistent in the first game, but I think he's done a really good job at not making big mistakes, right? I think it's easy for a quarterback when you get back there and pockets breaking down. It's easy to get the ball out when the receiver hasn't properly broke or just to make sure that you don't take a sack. Cardell's done a really good job at not doing that and not making a lot of mistakes. For as much as they've relied on him to throw, he threw 26 times in the first game. He threw 37 times against New York. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot more than I figured that DC would have him back there throwing the ball. And he protected the ball for the most part, 62% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns. He did have that one pick, but I'll take a 4-to-1 touchdown to pick ratio any day of the week.
Yeah, I think you also need to look at, too, so the top 3 quarterbacks in the league right now are out of Houston, St. Louis, and D.C. Oddly enough, they have the best records and top 3 in our power rankings. I'll go ahead and give that out. But you look at the play calling. The play calling for these teams has been what's on point. I mean, Chuck Long has done a phenomenal job with his rookie quarterback in St. Louis. We obviously know about the run and shoot in Houston that everybody was excited to see, and it's not disappointing. Pep Hamilton is crushing it right now. I know that the running game has gotten trouble getting going in D.C. It finally kind of started to get rolling in the second half versus a tired New York defense. But Pep Hamilton's really been taking advantage of a lot of these trick plays. Not a lot of teams have been doing that, but Pep Hamilton has seemed to really be calling those and bringing those out of his pocket at the right time. So I think play calling also plays a key role in putting your quarterbacks in a position to succeed with these teams.
Yeah, Pep is probably Pep and Jones are probably my 2 early Coach of the Year candidates. And obviously you say that, well, they're both 2-0, so that makes sense. But you can just tell that those teams' offenses have been more crisp and better prepared for this season and seem to be more in sync than the rest, even more than St. Louis. Like, St. Louis looks good, but they still got a ways to go, and same with the other teams. But you really don't have a lot of negative things to say other than some nitpicky type stuff against Houston's offense and DC's offense. So I gotta give credit where credit's due. June Jones and Pep Hamilton have absolutely laid out game plans and have done a really good job of executing their game plan so far through the first 2 weeks. And
that's key because you're seeing the problems in New York, the disconnect there. I'm not ready to jump off the Matt McGloin train yet, but just the way that he handled himself is a little concerning. But yeah, I think it plays a little bit in just he played awful last week. It was just one of those games. I don't think he's as bad as he played, but just his disconnect with the game plan is what is concerning to me. So that'll be interesting to see. But you can clearly see the teams that are, the most in sync in terms of their play calling, putting their quarterbacks in the best positions to succeed, are the teams that are in the upper echelon of the XFL, and the teams that are searching and struggling at quarterback are in the bottom. I mean, quarterback play is essential. It's what Oliver Luck has harped since the day he became the commissioner of the XFL. He's talked about it over and over again, just how important the quarterback play has been or going to be for this league. And so far, I think that most of the league, it's been good enough, if not above average. So I think, for the top three teams, it's definitely, they're in great situations. I think Josh Johnson, Landry Jones coming back, those teams are in good situations. And then we'll see, I think there's some hope for Seattle with Brandon Silvers, and then the other two teams with Matt McGloin. That situation we'll have to see. I don't even know what to make of that. I don't even know how to discuss that. But
sorry, I'm laughing. Somebody in the chat said Nick Marshall should be a quarterback in the XFL. The dude, he got moved to cornerback in the NFL. He played for the Jags. That's the worst. That's the worst one I've heard so far is Nick Marshall.
I deal with Josh trolling you, man.
I could deal with Josh Jobs and Christian Hackenberg and Zach Menberger and all those guys, but Nick Marshall, no.
Nobody talk about Hackenberg. If I see Hackenberg in the chat one more time, I'm shutting it down.
Riley's going to lose it. Riley's just going to lose it.
I'm going to lose my mind. But I'm interested in the live chat, and then once this is posted in the comments below, what your thoughts are, XFL fans, on the quarterback situation. What have you seen? What have you liked? What have you not liked from the XFL and their quarterback so far? And where do we go from here? Who do you have optimism about? I wonder, before we sign off, one last point. I wonder if there's going to be any trades made. If teams start out, 0-3, 1-3, 1-4, whatever it is, are teams going to start looking to make trades for maybe a Connor Cook in Houston or a Tyree Jackson in DC? I don't know. Maybe. Matt McGloin, New York, they already made a trade for Luis Perez, but right now he's sitting at third string.
And we know the league encourages it. The league encourages trading. They've been open about that. They say if you've got a surplus of talent somewhere, you need to be open to trading it to teams that might not have a deficit at that position, because they want the parity.
They may trade other positions, but I'm not sure quarterback's going to be one of them. The only reason I think you would is if that guy is your guy going forward into beyond 2020. I think it's really tough in a short season, 10-week season. If you get traded, if somebody got traded to Tampa Bay in week 4, he's got to learn a new offense. I mean, what is Trustman supposed to do? Roll out there week 5 and week 6? I mean, there's a big learning curve, I think. So that maybe, but I don't think it's very likely. Not with a short season.
Look, and before we wrap up, the biggest point I want to make, and everybody in the comment section needs to heed this, is tell your coworkers, tell your friends, tell your family, everybody who's watched the XFL so far and has maybe chirped you about quarterbacks, please tell them to turn into week 3. I'm telling you, I just have a gut feeling this is the week a lot of the quarterbacks are going to show up. They're going to show out, and I think week 3 is going to be a really, really pivotal big week for the XFL. I have a feeling this is the week that it's all going to start clicking.
You heard her here first, Riley. Did you hear that? We're going to mark that on the show.
Absolutely.
I want that. I want that in block quotes on a graphic after week 3, regardless either way, because Kenny's either going to be a goat or he's going to be the scapegoat. That's what I want.
The goat or the scapegoat.
Hey, we at the end of the year, we need to have a freezing cold take show. That's
where we
gonna
go
be-
over just our terrible takes. Well, our week 1 power rankings will be up there. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Our ranking
Well, hey-
top 8 quarterbacks will be on there. I can tell you that preseason. Woof.
Mine weren't too bad, though. My personal ones, you guys screwed it up. Kenny definitely screwed it up with throwing DC down at the
It's
bottom.
only week 2. Long way to
9.
go.
He had him at 9th. Remember that.
Yeah,
9th.
Cardell Jones, he had it 9th. Yeah, don't forget that. People in the chat were saying, Riley, make sure you give it to Kenny for his Cardell Jones.
I
take."
know. I saw. And
I'm
even
not
after I
doing
gave
this.
props-
I'm not doing this out of enjoyment. Trust me, Kenny. It pains
After
me
I
to
gave-
have to say this.
After I gave him props, people were like, 3rd place. How can you say he's 3rd best quarterback? Whatever.
It's a bit. Go with it.
I like the bit.
I like
Good
the bit too. Yeah.
You got to own your bit, right? You got to own it.
You got to stand. If you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything. Come on.
There you
I
go.
almost think your McGloin one is worse than your Cardell one, because you
That's-
were high
that
on
one-
McGloin, and
I
that's
feel
falling
worse
apart.
about that one. Dude, he stinks. I was so embarrassed watching him play in person last week. I was like, dang it, man. Not only are you playing bad and you're making me look bad, but then you're pounding on the sideline. You make me look even worse because I stood behind you preseason.
And I thought that game was gonna be so close too. I was so excited for that matchup,
Yeah.
and it just
Yeah, so did
It was a
I.
debacle.
Did you guys see? Did you guys see my gambling picks I released like right before kickoff? I said take Guardians +7. Love that.
don't listen to Coach Gless this week, guys. When you're
And in
going to
I would
reality-
say don't. I would say
Give it
don't
a
listen
week
to
or
my
two.
betting picks. Apparently,
And in reality, you could have took DC -26 and still covered.
I know. Yeah. No kidding. No kidding.
All right. Well, all right. So let's go ahead. We're going to wrap up here. We've been on for almost an hour, but thanks everybody for joining us on YouTube. We really appreciate the support, all of the comments, the conversation around the XFL. It's been an exciting first couple of weeks, and I think the quarterback play is encouraging. Obviously, things need to be worked on, but I think right now, if you look, 5 out of the 8 teams, I think, are in good situations, which is a pretty good place to be if you're the XFL. So, and it's also so young into the season. So we'll see how it goes moving forward into week 3. And Kenny is telling you guys right now, week 3, this is the week where
3,
quarterbacks
this is the
start
one.
to shine.
Yep.
I think everyone is in line to start. That is a typical starter, except for maybe Tampa. Aaron Murray hasn't practiced all week. Man, I
But-
hope that he starts because – go ahead, Kenny. What's that?
But even if Murray doesn't start, and I don't think he will because he hasn't practiced as of today, but at least Cornelius was the starter. There was continuity. He was the starter last week, and he's had another week of full week 1 reps. I'm not saying he's going to all of a sudden flip the switch, but we have continuity for all 8 teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see how week 3 moving forward pans out. But right now, I think they're off to a good start with the XFL. If you actually watch the games, your opinion
them.
might change a little bit when it comes to the XFL and their quarterback play. But leave your comments below. What do you think of the quarterback play so far? What are your quarterback rankings? How do you see the quarterback position laying out? What teams are in good positions with their quarterbacks? What teams need work? Follow us at XFL Chalk Talk. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course YouTube. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you hit that like button. So hit the notification bell so you know when all of our newest content is posted, and make sure you check out xflchalktalk.com as well. All of our content is posted there. Thank you guys so much for joining us on YouTube Live. We really appreciate it. And until next time, for Glessner, for Kenny, I'm Riley. This has been XFL Chalk Talk. Good night, everybody. We'll see you. Oh, look out for our power rankings are coming out tomorrow.
Yes.
We recorded that
Yes.
already, and then we're going to do our preview and picks, which will be coming out on Saturday. So make sure you check those out at XFL Chalk Talk on YouTube. All right. Good night, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Good night.